Hey, this is JC and welcome to Small Brick City, where we want to help you build a Lego city regardless of the space you have. Welcome to another in the series of building a MOC from start to finish, and this project is a remock of the sets you see in front of you. This is part one of a several part series. I have no idea how long this is going for, but the sets you see in front of you are two sets of the Hogwarts Great Hall, but built as mirror images of each other, and this is the clock tower. When I first saw the clock tower, I thought to myself that the front looks a lot like it can be a church or a cathedral, and I felt obviously the Great Hall would fit very well as the body. However, in order to build a complete build, I needed two sets to really make it complete and closed up, because as you can see, the Great Hall is really just a half shell. In fact, all these sets are just half shells. So what I intend to do is to combine all three sets together to create a large church or a cathedral. But it's going to get even more complicated than that. So it's not just about adding this back half of the Great Hall to the back of the clock tower. I also want this main door of the Great Hall to be the main door of the church. So I have to somehow integrate that front of the Great Hall to the front of the church over here. At the same time, combine the back of the sets with the Great Hall, and they don't exactly line up. And I have to make them all complete and closed up. Finally, I need to see if there's a way to make the roof modular, or at least open up in some way so that I can still access the interior of the build. I think it's pretty ambitious. I've never done anything like this in terms of using the Harry Potter sets. I've done a whole bunch of remodels with regular buildings and expert modular buildings, creator sets, but never with the Harry Potter set. One thing about these sets, they use a lot of columns and panel pieces. So in a way it's a little lazy, I think, because you can see even the masonry bricks that they used over here, they're all just stickers. But using panels and columns means that the structure is more or less fixed. Unlike bricks, where every single part is made out of small bricks, it's easy to manipulate and change around. But with all these panel pieces and columns and just pre-molded pieces, it's much harder to configure it to your needs. And I want to try to use most of the bricks from this set. I do not want to get to my parts bin if I can help it. After all, I've really got three sets here. It doesn't make much more sense to use bricks outside if I can help it. So personally, I think this project will either be really spectacular if it's successful, or it could be an epic fail. So I know that once I start, it's going to be hard to reverse or put back the builds as they are without a lot of work, because I'm essentially going to be breaking them down in parts. So let's see what happens, and let's begin by taking this apart. And I think what I need to do is to set the footprint of the entire build. I do know I want to build it on a 32 by 48 stud base plate, and I've got a custom base plate that I cut from a 48 by 48 plate. Now if you want to check out how to cut base plates easily, just follow the video in the link above or the card below. So this will be a standalone building. It's not modular in the sense that it's not meant to be set next to another building. It will be standalone in the middle of this base plate. So what I've done is to separate this main tower from the Great Hall, and I'm taking effort just to make sure that this doesn't break apart. So I do want to try to keep things intact as much as possible as I build. That's just so that I can try to keep to the architectural structure of the build, and I do not want so many loose parts around at this part. Now I'm looking at the base plates. I do have to take everything off and transplant it to my own base plate, so that will be tricky. What I think I will do first, I'll only work with one side first so that I always have the mirror build to refer to, and I will take out all the interior details, keeping them intact, and then later I'll try to pry off just the building portion, and I will then put it up. Now you can see there are some parts which can be added in here. I might just pull them off from the clock tower, not the clock tower, but the main tower over here, just so this doesn't break apart as I work on it. So I'm going to take out all these small builds, put them safely aside, and then I will try to take out this entire building from the base plates and set them on my own base plate. Now looking at this, as I'm trying to take out the base plates, to keep intact, I'm thinking of taking 1 by something long plates to hold everything in place. And generally when I'm working with modelers, I also do lay out the footprint of the main buildings with 1 by something long plates. So this is something I would have to reach into my extra bin to do. So I'm now figuring out the color to use and how I'll actually apply it as I take out the base plates. So this is to give you an idea what I had in mind. Now just due to the structure, once you take out the base plate, it becomes pretty much unstable. So I have to just work in this way. But what I've done is to take these curved panels from the main tower, and I'm going to put them here, and I'm going to build them up somehow and try to connect them in a way. But this is how I'm going to join the main body of the Great Hall to the front of the clock tower. So the plates that I have to introduce from my own parts is really just to lay the foundation to make it easier. Now if you were to do this, you do not have to do this, but I just like to raise it up so that later if I do any tiling or any kind of detailing work for the outside, it does raise it to the same level as that detailing I'm going to do. So it raises the entire building by 1 plate high. So what I need to do is to continue adding plates to lay out the foundation, but I think this is at least where I'm going to go for the size. So it's going to be set in the middle of this plate as a standalone building. The main door, which is going to be from the Great Hall, is going to be integrated somewhere here. So maybe I might move it back by 1 stud just so that I put more space in the front, so that if I have to do any kind of texturing, it just seems like a really grand entrance. And then we can just leave maybe enough space for a minifig to walk past. I could go 1 stud. Now it's 4 studs with 3 studs. I think I could just go 1 stud and just give a bit more space here. So I'll continue laying this out and putting down the foundation. Hopefully I can plate the entire footprint of this build. So here's a challenge that I did anticipate but didn't realize it would be this tricky. Just due to the size of the clock tower, it is a specific size, and then we've got the size of this particular Great Hall body. But to fit them together, I need to use these panels, but it looks like I'm off by 2 studs. So if I were to place this here, for example, the problem is this body will be much bigger than the church, the front of the church. So if I need to fit this, I would have to expand the clock tower widthwise by 2 studs. Now the problem with that is this bar or this brick is only this long. It will be very difficult for me to just extend it by 2 and not affect the structural integrity of the clock tower or doing a massive rebuild. I could maybe reduce this Great Hall building by 1 brick on either side, but that would likely mess up with the roof angle and the length and the size, so that's not very good as well. So at this point I have not figured out how I'm going to join these together. Now the other thing is not to worry about the bottom, but to maybe join it up at the top this way, and then find another way to put this together. So that's another possibility. So this is what we're looking at. I can have this part of the church curve in. It might work. The only issue is the roof and whether it gets in the way of the roof. Maybe I'll have to move this forward by 1, but I think this will at least be the position of the main body of the church, and then I have a bit of allowance to move back and forward over here. So what I need to do now is to, I think, modify the door from the Great Hall and integrate it with the front of this clock tower. I can see that being a massive job in itself, but I have to do that first to set the exact size of the clock tower, and then I can work with the integration with the clock tower with the main hall, and then worry about the rest later. So this is a better idea of how it might look. Obviously this part will have to be built up, but at least we can see that conceptually it seems like it's possible to kind of get these two parts together. Yeah, I might be able to still work that amazingly. So this looks about right. If I can achieve this, I think this is a win, because you can see this fits nicely over on this side. Let's just press that down a bit, and if we come over here, I believe the sizing, nope, I think it's off again. So we're back to the same issue. It's reconciling the size of this particular build with the tower. So I've just realized what the main issue is. The construction of the Great Hall, or the main building of the Great Hall, is such that it's actually off-centered by maybe 2 studs. That's why it's giving all this problem. So in terms of the relative size, it's correct, but I will need to change the steeple, or maybe I put it wrongly actually. So I figured out what the issue is. The issue was me. I replaced the roof wrongly. I didn't put it back in the center. So what I need to do is to pop this off and put it in the right place so that it's centered. So it should be more like this. So this has to lift up, and now this is the right position. So that was my fault. That's the reason why I couldn't get it in line. Now if I do this, it might be possible to fit these panels in all the way. So this is, I think, correct. So I need to move this in by 1 stud. So that's how this will fit in, and now everything is symmetrical. So the question is whether we can put in another piece here. Now the problem with this is, obviously, if we're to build the wall here, let's see if we can get a part just as an example. If this were to be built in, it would stick out within the build. It's not perfect. There would be a gap. It won't be solid unless we have an indent over here, which could work in principle, or I could just brick build everything and only have this round part on top, which I think would work as well. So we could have just these rounded parts at the top, and everything below here can be brick built. Not sure we can use the parts that exist just due to the structure, but at least we're getting somewhere. So what I intend to do now is to lay down the foundation, as I've been saying for the longest time, but at least that will get me closer to figuring out the exact footprint of this build. And then I think I'll stop there, and in part 2 I will try to integrate this door somehow into the clock tower. Alright, so I have laid out the entire footprint of the main part of the cathedral. I'm not going to take out this base plate just yet because this kind of works already, and I do have to try to fit in the Great Hall door in front over here. So there's no point changing the base plate at this point. I do have generally everything I need in terms of creating this joint, and that's for the top half over here. I think it will work out. I might have to adjust the height of this tower as we go along, but generally I think that's fine, and I have to figure a way to fill up the space over here. So I'll stop this part over here. It does seem that we weren't entirely efficient or productive, but I think that's just being deceptive, because I think laying out the footprint of the cathedral is of course the most important. You have to figure out your foundation and the size before you can really move forward. If not, a lot of adjustments will be made. So I just think, just looking at it like that, I think we have made some progress in this part. In the second part, I will work on integrating the door with this clock tower, which I think will be a feat by itself. And if with time, I'll then integrate the clock tower with the main hall. And then in subsequent videos, we'll take the mirror Great Hall and fill up this area over here. I'm not looking forward to creating the roof that is modular in nature, but we'll see how that goes. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got any comments or feedback, please leave them in the discussion below. And if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And as always, please subscribe to the channel and turn on that notification bell. Thanks for watching. Check out these two videos before you go.